Don't you love putting a ton of effort into something only to have an 11th century Italian mathematician slap his name right on it? Well, welcome to the world of ancient Indian mathematics. That's right, boys and girls, today we are talking about the Fibonacci sequence. Now, for those of you who did things in school like talk to girls and go to dances, the Fibonacci sequence is pretty simple. Here's the formula. If you're not used to seeing mathematics expressed like this basically means that in order to get the next number in the sequence, you add the previous two numbers. You start with 1 and 1, then you get 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on. Now, why in the world do we care about adding numbers together in this way? Well, to be honest, most people don't. But I think it has some pretty cool properties. Unlike humans, plants really care about this. All the cool plants have a number of petals that corresponds to a number in the Fibonacci sequence, which also is called a Fibonacci number. Well, what about the plants that don't have a Fibonacci number of petals? Well, let's just say we have our people take care of those. Recently, another cool property of the sequence was found by hard-working Facebook and Tumblr scientists. During their hours of scrolling and thinking and commenting, this user found an amazing breakthrough. He pulled up his pirated version of Excel and typed up a comparison spreadsheet. Once he was done, the world was changed forever. This user found that you could accurately use the Fibonacci sequence to estimate the conversion from miles to kilometers. We see that finding the next number in the Fibonacci sequence will give you the approximate conversion. For example, the number after 3 in the sequence is 5, whereas 3 miles is 4.83 kilometers. What could be the cause of this? Could it be that the founders of the metric and imperial systems were so enthralled by the idea of this sequence, but threw in a little error in order to not make their obsession obvious? Or what if Fibonacci himself developed both systems in an attempt to popularize his own fancy pattern? Well, the actual reason isn't quite as exciting as that. The Fibonacci sequence leads us to an important ratio. In fact, some people may call it the golden ratio. You might have seen this image before. This is based off the Fibonacci sequence. You start with two squares whose sides are 1 unit, then you can draw squares who have a side length of a Fibonacci number. When you get a nice little rectangle, you can draw a curvy boy along these points to generate this golden ratio. Putting it into numbers, the golden ratio is 1 plus the square root of 5 all over 2. This may be exact, but it's pretty hard to picture. Imagine if you asked me how much money I made and I said 1 plus the square root of 5 all over $2 million. You would understand that I make something in the millions, but if I said I make $1.618 million, then you would have a better relative understanding of how much I am making. Side note, numbers like this are called exact numbers because if you take the square root of 5, you will get a number with a literal infinite amount of decimal points. It is physically impossible to write down this exactly in decimal form, so we shorten to 1.618 or leave it with the square root notation. Now, the reason this is significant is because the conversion from miles to kilometers is 1.609, which is pretty close to 1.618. This is why the Fibonacci sequence can almost tell us what the conversion from miles to kilometers is, but only if the miles is a Fibonacci number. Now, this is not only restricted to the conversion from miles to kilometers. Anything that has a conversion rate near the golden ratio, 1.618, can be estimated using the Fibonacci sequence. At the time of recording, we see that 8 USD is 12.77 NZD. The number after 8 in the Fibonacci sequence is 13. The conversion rate between the USD and NZD is 1.6, which is pretty close to the golden ratio. So, I bet you forgot my silly comment about ancient Indian mathematics at the start of this video, but I certainly did not. You know how this is called the Fibonacci sequence? Well, it first showed up in Indian poetry by Acharya Pingala around 300 BC. Fibonacci casually mentioned it in writing around 1202, 1500 years after Pingala. As cool as the name Fibonacci sounds, Pingala truly deserves the credit. Not only did he come up with the cool sequence in the first place, but he also used it to dictate the number of beats in his poetry. The sequence only got its name when a French mathematician in the 1800s decided to name it after Fibonacci. In the words of Martin Gardner,
It is ironic that Leonardo, who made valuable contributions to mathematics, is remembered today mainly because a 19th century French number theorist, Edouard Lucas, attached the name Fibonacci to a number sequence that appears in the trivial problem in Liber-Abaci.
It seems that the moral of this story is, always casually bring up random things whenever you write in hopes of getting something named after you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please be sure to leave a like. If you subscribe, awesome, thank you so much. If you check out the Twitch, I'll love you forever. As a math student, I love the Fibonacci sequence. It's pretty cool. I can talk your ear off about it for the next 10 years if you want, so comment, subscribe, whatever. But thank you so much.